This year, I'll be turning 30, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life thus far. I have learned them the hard way, so you don't have to. I wish I could speak to my younger self to save her some of the pain of naivety. My 20s were filled with anxiety and uncertainty, and I often felt alone, questioning the life path that I found myself on. I started this channel and my blog as a way to help others and save them from some of the pain I've experienced. These are the biggest mistakes I've made in my 20s and how you can avoid them. The first huge mistake that I made in my 20s was overthinking my intuition. We all both have an emotional and thought body, a rational and emotional part of our being. And our gut feeling, it is the sum of your life experiences, your history of everything you've learned and gathered over the course of your life, communicated through your gut intuition feeling. I know, especially being an engineer, I can have a tendency to overthink, hyperanalyze, and enforce logic on every scenario in my life. But the reality of it is that my body knows in its gut what the right answer is for me and what is most aligned for my future, just in its intuition. And whenever I have made some of the best decisions in my life, I've made them from that gut feeling, from that trust in myself. I have not had to anxiously overthink really, really impactful decisions in my life that have turned out wonderfully. Whenever I am anxiously overthinking something and trying to apply logic to my initial gut feeling, it actually ends up worse than if I just went with my gut feeling to begin with. So if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be trust your gut, trust your intuition. You know more than you think you do. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Emily, and for my day job, I work as a civil engineer. After hours, I like to bring you my favorite personal development advice to help you grow into the woman of your dreams. So grab your tea, tuck in, and let's get started. The next mistake I made in my 20s was taking advice from people who did not have receipts. People will try to give you their opinion and their thoughts on your lives all the time. They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart because they care and they want to help you, but you don't want to take advice from people who are not where you aspire to be. If you're taking advice in your dating life from someone who is not married, they don't know what they're talking about. It is the blind leading the blind. You have to be taking advice from people who have already gone through the life experience that you want to achieve, and they know the best way to achieve it. If you want to get married, go talk to your married friends and ask them for dating advice. If you want a promotion at work, go talk to the people who are killing it in their career. If you want to glow up and you want to have a beautiful makeup look, go watch a tutorial from a beauty queen or an influencer. You don't want to take advice from people who have no experience in what they're talking about. They mean the best. They're trying their best. They want to help you, and just be kind and receptive to their opinions, but don't take their advice so seriously. Just take it with a grain of salt, allow it to pass through your body, and really, really focus on advice from people who are where you want to be. The next biggest mistake I have made was not minding my own business. One of my favorite books of all time, Stranger in a Strange Land, has one of the most impactful quotes I have ever read. It says, "A desire not to butt into other people's business is at least 80% of all human knowledge." And every time I read this quote, I'm reminded that other people's opinions and other people's perceptions are not my responsibility. Whatever someone else thinks, their view of the world, is their reality. It says nothing about you. So anytime someone's gonna say something mean about you, if they're giving you an opinion that makes you feel triggered, or if they're sharing their perspective on your life, hurts you for whatever reason, just let it go. It is really a projection of their own life experience, and it is not an accurate representation of your own life. It is just a vocal projection of their own reality. It has nothing to do with you. This also goes a little bit into our earlier point about not taking advice from people who don't have receipts. No one knows what's best for you better than you do yourself, because you've had the luxury of knowing yourself for your entire life. Your perception is the best tool to help you live the life of your dreams. Someone else has a different life experience and it may not be applicable to you. So if they're sharing their perspective, if they're sharing their opinions about your outfit, your hair, about your life path, your decisions, your career ideas, that's great. You're welcome to receive that. Say, thank you, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and allow it to flow out your other ear. Go on living your glorious life and allow people to have their opinions, hear them, and then continue on. I always made the mistake of taking other people's opinions and viewpoints on my life too seriously, and I think it led me trying harder to people please and make other people happy, which truly just hurt my own happiness. So if I were to tell my younger self anything, it would be to listen to yourself before you listen to others. And people can have whatever opinion they want to about you. It is not a reflection of your true self. It says more about them than it says about you. The next mistake that I made in my 20s was trying to solve problems that have not happened yet. Anxiety, I think, is a fear of the future and a fear of the unknown, and I spent a lot of my time trying to protect myself from things I didn't know would even happen. So I would be hyper over prepared for scenarios and feel safer because of that, but I would spend an immense amount of time, mental stress, mental bandwidth, thinking about all these possible future scenarios that could go wrong in the event that they happened. There was, for some reason in me, a distrust in myself in preparing for the future. I, for whatever reason, thought that my future self was not smart enough to figure it out when or if that event happened. But when you meet the future, you will meet it with even more tools and more experience to solve the problems that you may run into. Most of the time, when we're being really anxious, or solving for things that might never happen. It is an absolute waste of effort to be hyper over preparing for events that may never happen. You have the capacity to figure things out if a problem is to arise. Everything is figure outable, including things that feel so challenging that you have to hyper prepare for now. You'll figure it out if it happens. Allow life to unfold, and if you need to figure something out difficult in the future, I know you'll be able to solve it. Please stop being addicted to suffering. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be stop making your life harder than it needs to be. Me and a lot of my friends I know have this tendency to put on ourselves the need to do everything, be everything for everyone else, and somehow take care of ourselves. And it is absolutely impossible, and you will run yourself ragged trying to do everything. And you're probably going to be a very unhappy woman. You do not need to work a full-time job, make all of your meals from scratch, clean the entire house, maintain a burgeoning social life, and do your side hustle. Please stop making yourself so unhappy, tired, exhausted, and burned out. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay to outsource the things that you don't have the capacity to do. And it is not a detriment to your character to hire the right people to help you to perform better. So now, in my older, wiser years, there are a lot of things I outsource to make my life easier and to give myself more space for fun and creativity. Some of those things include grocery shopping, video editing, getting my hair and nails done. Sometimes, like the grocery shopping, these things are an annoyance for me to do myself, and I actually spend more money physically going into a grocery store than I do ordering online. And sometimes there are other people who are more qualified to do the activity than I am. So for example, my hairdresser is way more qualified at taking care of my princess hair than I am. I tried to dye my hair a few times at home. It went horribly. It was not worth saving the, $50 to get it dyed at the time, to struggle myself and to have horrible hair because of the mess I created with box tie. So I would have saved myself a lot of pain if I just went to an expert, had my hair done properly, and didn't have to regrow all of the mess that I damaged myself. So if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be do not waste your time doing things that are not a good use of your personal talents. The next mistake that I made in my 20s was ignoring my personal interests and my personal talents when choosing a career. I chose a career in engineering primarily because I thought it would provide me with a life of stability. And it has, and I'm very grateful for this, but definitely there are parts of my character that I feel are not fully utilized by my job, mainly being my communication skills, public speaking, writing, and teaching. And there are many avenues for me to do this on the side in which this YouTube channel exists, and I'll be having a mentoring program in the future, so definitely email me if you want to be involved in that. I wish I had found something for my day job that really resonated with me and used my talents, because engineering feels like a job I can do and do well, but it never felt like anything that I was a top performer in. And I think in order for me to be passionate about my career, I would need to feel like I excel at it. And after all this time that I've poured into engineering, I've gotten better, but it's never felt something that naturally clicked with me. So if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be spend some time getting to know yourself before you choose a career. Stop calling yourself an introvert. One of the biggest mistakes that I made in my 20s was fitting myself into certain personality boxes. I like to read books. I love a quiet weekend with friends. I love snuggling up under my covers, having my candles lit, and generally prefer a closer knit set of friends to a giant group of loose connections. I felt like putting myself in the box of being an introvert really stifled my growth, and it made it harder for me to grow in the areas that I wanted to. So I always had a part of me who wanted to be an effortlessly charismatic woman who could step into a ballroom and charm anyone with her grace. In my years of wisdom, I have learned how to do that, thankfully, but actually telling myself I'm an introvert, I'm a shy person, made it harder for me to grow into the person I wanted to be. So if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be stop putting yourself in boxes, stop labeling yourself with things that you don't want to be. We all tell ourselves a story in our mind all the time. We build ourselves out of that story. The story you tell yourself about yourself will be the person you become. So if you want to be someone who is effortlessly charming, tell yourself that you're charming and charismatic. Stop calling yourself an introvert. Does anyone remember that song that's like, I'm just trying to be cool? Please stop trying to be cool. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I was younger was trying to fit into someone else's idea of what it meant to be cool or beautiful or successful. And I wish I had just relaxed, allowed myself to be myself, and had more fun, because I caused myself a lot of hurt and emotional pain trying to fit into someone else's little personality box. And then I found when I did conform into that box, the people I was meeting were not a natural fit for my personality. So I wasn't making deep, meaningful connections with people because the people I was meeting didn't resonate with my soul. And if you want to make really deep, long-lasting friendships, I think you need the courage to show yourself. You can't show yourself if you're constantly pretending to be someone else. And I don't want to have to wear a mask constantly when I'm out and about in the world because it's exhausting. So if you want to have more fun and if you want to make meaningful friends, I would tell my younger self to have the courage to show yourself and stop trying to be what anyone else thinks is cool. The next biggest mistake I made was resisting help. Again, there seems to be a narrative that in order to be successful, you have to do everything yourself. And I often felt like that meant it was a detriment to my character if someone helped to lift some of the burden off me. However, if someone opens a door for you, if someone helps you lift heavy objects, and if someone is trying to provide for you, it is not a detriment to your character. It is their way of showing you that you're worthy of love and they want to take care of you. So allow them to take care of you and allow them to love you, and your life will be easier and happier for it. I mentioned previously that you should be trying to outsource a lot in your life and you don't have to do anything. You need to have the courage to say, there are things I need help with and I can't do everything myself. And when the universe responds by providing you with solutions, you gotta take those solutions. You don't wanna sit in pain and overwhelm and just shuck off any help that comes along. Take it. Take the help that the universe is giving you. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be, you don't have to try so hard. You are part of a community. You are loved and supported. Allow the people who care about you to help you. One of the biggest mistakes I made in my 20s was staying in relationships, both romantic relationships and friendships that were no longer serving me. I know if you have a big heart, it's really hard to allow people to naturally float in your life because you see a part of someone and you want to keep them around. You want them close and you want that friendship and that fun and that romance to stay in your life. I have always overextended myself in order to make things happen, and it's just been at a detriment to my self-worth and my energy. So I wish I'd had the courage to let go sooner when I knew clearly things would not work out in the long run. I've definitely gotten better at this as I go older, but especially when I was younger, I wasted years on the wrong friendships and I wasted years in the wrong romantic relationships. And you can't get time back. There are a lot of resources that you can replenish later on, but you can never win back your time. So be as greedy as possible with the time that you're given and give it to the people who you know will be in your life for the long run. And when someone shows you that they cannot be in your life, they cannot bring fun, happiness, joy, support, love, it is time to let them go. Okay, so the absolute biggest mistake that I made in my 20s was living with someone who I was not engaged to. I know, especially if you're a viewer from the US, it is a very normal thing to live with someone you're dating, but looking back and reflecting on the experience, I think it was a horrible decision. I come from a fairly conservative background. I'd say my family's about split 50-50 between conservative people and more liberal people, and it is definitely more customary to live with someone you're dating if you fall on the liberal side of the spectrum. But when I went to move in with the person I was dating, it was purely a logic-based scenario. It seemed like a great way to be closer to work, to save some money, and to not be so lonely all the time being around someone I cared about. But truthfully, it put me in a really uncomfortable position. Me and my family could have told me that this person was not the person I was going to be with in the long run, but I was again trying to make things work and thought spending more time together would help the scenario. But in reality, me living with them ended up prolonging a relationship that was never really serving me well. Me living with them did not solve any problems that already existed in the relationship. It actually exacerbated them. It made it harder for me to get away. So it made it clearer that I was not meant to be with this person, but it put me in a scenario where I was very trapped. Statistically, most women date men who are more financially stable than they are, primarily because women mostly date older men, but also because you want to date someone who is inspiring and who seems like they can take care of you, and that usually equates to someone who has more wisdom, experience, and the ability to provide. And if you are stepping into someone else's life who is living at a higher standard of living than you are, you're instantly putting yourself at the mercy of their whims because you wouldn't be able to afford their lifestyle alone. So I found myself in a scenario where I didn't want to be with this person anymore. I was still with them for a year and a half, but I didn't really know how to get out of the scenario. I couldn't afford an apartment by myself. I was too far away from my parents to move back in. And I finally ended up being free from the scenario when the giant virus hit and we were finally allowed to work from home. And that for me felt like God giving me a way out of the relationship. But if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be, do not commit to someone who is not fully committed to you. I know there's a tendency to think a long-term boyfriend even is someone who's mentally committed, but it really doesn't mean anything in the long run. And it is not enough for someone to just say that they want to be with you forever for it to be a reality. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be, do not move in with a man and do not reorient your life for a man who is not fully committed to you. And to me, someone who's dating for marriage and someone who comes from more conservative backgrounds, that means not moving in with someone who has not chosen to marry you. And I got a lot of grief for moving in with a boyfriend when I was younger from family, and I wish I had listened to it, but at the time I shrugged it off. But now I'm telling you, hoping to save you some pain. I know it feels like a logical solution to move in with someone, to see how they are behind closed doors, but statistically speaking, you're more likely to get divorced if you are to move in together before marriage. I'd like to let science speak for the truth. So in the future, that's how I will be operating. And I wish my younger self had had the wisdom to see that. You can go test drive a new car if you want, but a woman is not a car. Test driving her does not make the relationship better. And for me, living with someone before I was married to them created an immense amount of resentment. And resentment is at the seed of all relationship failure. I resented the fact that I was doing all of the activities of being a wife, but I did not have the emotional, spiritual, and financial security of someone who's a wife. Wait to change your life for someone who actually wants to share it with you. I recently found these new kombucha drinks on the subject of tea. These are no sugar kombucha drinks, and I love them because usually you find the healthy fermented teas and they have 15 grams of sugar. So these are my new favorite beauty find if you're looking for new ways to have glowing skin this summer. Yes, I approve. I got the mixed berry flavor, definitely just because it's pink, but that's alright. Alright everyone, that is all I have for you today. This is turning out to be a rather long video. I hope that something I said helps you guys in your journey. And if you've made it this far in the video, please leave a little heart comment so that I know you're a true fan. Good luck everyone, and remember, learn from my mistakes. I learned the hard way so you don't have to.